Welcome to the deep dive. We sift through the sources, extract the vital insights, and give you the fast track to being truly well informed. Today, we're taking a deep dive into Pat Barker's novel, The Silence of the Girls. It's a powerful one. You might remember Philip Roth's point in The Human Stain about how European literature basically kicks off with a fight over a woman in the Iliad. It's exactly where we're going. But not to rehash the same old heroic battles, our mission today is to see that legendary conflict through a totally different lens. We're looking through the eyes of the quote-unquote prizes of war. We're following Briseis. She was queen of Lyrnessus, captured, and then given to Achilles. Yes, that Achilles.
Exactly. And what Barker does so brilliantly is take that epic story, the Iliad, and just turn it inside out. So we're here to pull out the often ignored realities of war. What happens when you shift focus from the warriors to the women who become their property? We want to find those, unexpected bits of agency, resistance, real humanity that comes out of what the old stories just called silence. This isn't just retelling it, it's really getting under the skin of it, re-examining history.
Okay, so to really get Briseis' view, we have to start right at that brutal moment. Her city, Lyrnessus, is falling. It's chaos. Women, kids, herded into the citadel, grabbing whatever they can.
And the description of that citadel, it's harrowing. Barker really goes there. Briseis talks about the heat, the smells, she lists them, sweaty bodies of milk, baby shit, and menstrual blood. It's overpowering. And Barker immediately shows you this horrifying difference in war. Boys, routinely slaughtered, even in the womb, potentially. Girls, though, girls are allowed to live, but only for one reason: enslavement. That reality hits you right away.
It's this really twisted kind of kindness, isn't it? And Briseis clocks it instantly. She sees her old slave, Ismene, who never used to meet her eye, now just staring, like saying, "Your turn now." And it makes Briseis wonder, perhaps no kindness was possible between owner and slave, only varying degrees of brutality. That thought coming from a former queen, wow, it says so much about how dehumanizing the whole system is.
That's a core insight, absolutely. It
Yeah,
taps
right.
right into the psychology of power. Her realization isn't just about physical cruelty. It's that even supposed kindness is just another tool of control, not real compassion. It just highlights the total stripping away of dignity.
And then she herself is captured, her cousin Ariana. She chooses death instead. Jumps from the walls, Briseis sees her white robe flutter down like a singed moth. Just awful. Moments later, she's in front of old King Nestor. He's surprisingly polite, actually. Giles tells her not to be scared.
Yeah, but that flicker of civility, it vanishes the second she gets to the Greek camp proper. She's brought to Achilles, and he basically declares her, as she puts it, a cow tethered and waiting to be sacrificed. That's when this numbness takes over, but she fights back internally. She starts mentally rebuilding Lyrnessus, filling its streets, bringing her family back in her mind. It's her shield.
That mental rebuilding, it's such a powerful act of inner resistance. It really makes you think, doesn't it? How quickly your whole world, your identity can just be torn away, but also how the mind can fight back against complete erasure. But even there, in the enemy camp, she starts finding, flickers of humanity. She's stuck in this tiny room in Achilles' hut. She calls it the cupboard. And that's where Patroclus comes in. Achilles' best friend, his companion. He brings her food, wine, has this lopsided grin. He shows her this kindness. She doesn't trust it at first, obviously. He even offers to try and get Achilles to marry her. It's unexpected.
That contrast is so stark, isn't it? Achilles is brutal, indifferent. Patroclus shows actual care. And his offer of marriage, however likely or unlikely, it's radical. It's an attempt to see her as more than just a prize. It suggests he recognizes her as a person, something Achilles rarely does. It tells you a lot about Patroclus.
And this leads to something else amazing. She forms connections with the other captive women. They meet up in Nestor's compound, Hakemead, Uza, Ritza, others like her. And they talk, really frankly, sometimes cynically, about their lives now, their captors. They even manage to laugh together, which seems incredible given everything.
That shared laughter, yeah. It's a coping mechanism born from shared trauma. But it doesn't gloss over the horror. You see that with Tecmessa. She's Ajax's captive. She shows up with black finger marks around her throat. Says Ajax has terrible nightmares. Thinks she's a Trojan fighter sometimes. It blurs the lines, Shows even the aggressors are damaged by this war. And Tecmessa tells Briseis quite resignedly that she'll soften up too when she has a child, which just challenges Briseis' own determination.
Right, because Briseis is fiercely determined. She does everything she can to avoid getting pregnant. It's not just physical, it's about holding on to who she was, a person with a role in life. She's terrified of losing the last vestige of myself if she has Achilles' child. She even talks about washing him out of her body each morning, a ritual.
It shows that even when you have zero external freedom, you can still resist internally. Refusing to conceive becomes this silent, powerful way she asserts that her body, her future, they still belong to her somehow. It's about not letting them erase her completely.
And her personal struggle then gets caught up in these much bigger events. Divine anger, mortal fallout. The whole camp suffers. It starts with a conflict. Briseis, Apollo's priest, wants his daughter Chryseis back from Agamemnon. Agamemnon, being arrogant, Agamemnon just refuses, flat out. Briseis sees the priest leaving, and she has this sudden insight. Connects the dots.
Yes. She realizes Apollo isn't just the god of light and music. He's also the lord of mice. And mice, like rats, carry the plague. Chilling. It shows how Agamemnon's pride, his hubris, directly triggers this divine punishment. For the ancients, plague wasn't random. It was often seen as God's anger.
And the plague itself. Barker's description is brutal. Rats staggering around in circles, screaming, bleeding from the mouth. Then the dogs and mules start dying. One of Achilles' men, Myron, dies horribly, foaming, muttering, "Rats, rats." Achilles is just weirdly detached. The sooner he's cremated, the better, he says.
And amidst all this death, the Greek men are trying to keep spirits up with forced cheerfulness, lots of drinking. But Aphithis, another captive woman, she points out something stark. She says the women weren't dying in anything like the same numbers as the Greek fighters. Compares it to a few dead mice among so many squealing rats. It's this awful accidental privilege of being less important almost, not the direct targets of Apollo's wrath.
But for Briseis, this isn't just a tragedy hitting the camp. It feels like a kind of justice. She admits she prayed for vengeance against Achilles, against the Greeks. She thinks, my country was at war, my family had been killed. She doesn't regret those prayers, finds this grim, chilling satisfaction in Apollo answering them. It's dark, but given what she's lost, you kind of understand it.
Her prayers really root us in that ancient worldview, where the gods directly intervene. And her lack of regret shows how personal these epic conflicts are. Agamemnon's actions have consequences for everyone. It makes you think about the real human cost, way beyond the battlefield heroics.
Then the story shifts again, focusing on grief, the cost of glory, even for someone like Achilles. We get these glimpses of his vulnerability, mostly through Patroclus. We learn about his mother, Thetis, the sea goddess who left him, how he'd cry, "Mommy, Mommy," on the beach like a little kid. Patroclus even admits he cried every night for a year himself over his own past. It really humanizes them, doesn't it? Even these legends carry deep grief.
It completely shatters the mythic image. Achilles, the great warrior, crying for his mother. It reveals this profound wound of abandonment. And Patroclus admitting his own tears. It shows this shared, hidden sorrow among the fighters. The weight of war isn't just physical. It eats away at them. It totally reframes how you see Achilles.
And that vulnerability leads to the turning point. The Greeks are losing badly. Achilles is still sulking because Agamemnon took Briseis. He won't fight. So Patroclus, loyal Patroclus, desperate to save his friends, begs Achilles to let him wear his armor. Achilles agrees, but gives him these very strict orders. Stop the minute the ships are safe. Don't press onto the gates. Don't fight Hector.
It's just tragic foreshadowing, isn't it? You know it won't end well. Patroclus puts on the armor, feels like Achilles' equal now. That power, that pride, it makes him ignore the orders. He pushes towards Troy, faces Hector, and dies, just as Achilles feared. Achilles later talks about his dream of them taking Troy side by side, adds this layer of painful irony to it all.
And Achilles' reaction to Patroclus' death, it's primal, utter devastation. He lets out this great cry, scrabbles at the dirt, throws it all over himself. His transformation into this engine of pure vengeance, vowing to defile Hector's body. It shows the horrifying cost of love and loss in war. How far does that vengeance take him?
His grief for Patroclus just consumes him. It overrides everything else. It's a love so deep that losing it turns him into something almost monstrous, driven by a rage that ultimately dishonors him. It really forces you to see how these powerful figures are driven and broken by personal bonds, not just by glory or duty. That love is the real engine here.
So as we near the end of our deep dive, we get these unexpected moments, alliances, maybe even seeds of a future. It starts with Priam, Troy's old king. He does something incredibly brave, walks unarmed into Achilles' hut. He's begging for Hector's body back, the body Achilles has been dragging behind his chariot. And Priam says that line, "I do what no man before me has ever done. I kiss the hands of the man who killed my son." Just gut-wrenching.
It's an astonishing moment. Pure, raw, shared humanity breaking through the war, and Achilles is moved. Then, incredibly, he and Briseis work together to wash Hector's body. Briseis calls it creating him. She uses her mother's opal necklace, stones for his eyes. It's this strange, intimate ritual. But even then, her mind is sharp. She thinks, and I do what countless women before me have been forced to do. I spread my legs for the man who killed my husband and my brothers. That despair is still there. But somehow, facing it seems to strengthen her resolve to find her own way.
Yes, it spurs her to try and escape. She hides in Priam's cart when he leaves. She goes through this whole internal debate that the danger, what future awaits in Troy anyway, the horrors if Troy falls, and then she decides to go back to the Greek camp. She feels, this was my place now. What does that choice mean? Choosing that harsh present over a terrifyingly uncertain freedom.
It feels like agency, not surrender. Choosing the known devil, maybe, a reality she can navigate, perhaps, versus total chaos. Shortly after, Achilles finds out she's pregnant, and his reaction is, well, practical. Abrupt, but practical. He arranges for her to marry Alchemist, one of his men, someone he calls a good man. The plan is to send the child to Achilles' father, Peleus. It gives her and the child some status, some safety. It's a very unceremonious wedding, nothing like the epic scale of the war, but it's a path forward for her.
And that brings us right back to the true cost of war, especially for women. The fall of Troy, it's horrific. You think of Andromache, Hector's wife, her baby son thrown from the walls. Then she's given to Achilles' son, Paris, or Polysena, Priam's daughter, choosing death over becoming a slave. Cassandra, Agamemnon's disruptive, jangling prize, cursed never to be believed, and their fates are awful. And Briseis sees this, understands it, and thinks, we need a new song.
We need a new song. That says it all, doesn't it? That's the core of Barker's project. Then Briseis feels her baby kick, and she thinks, I was glad I'd chosen life. Her new status, Alcimist's wife, offers some protection, a different identity, and her final thought is so powerful. Once, not so long ago, I tried to walk out of Achilles' story and failed. Now my own story can begin. It's this declaration that even after all that trauma, all that loss, her story can find its own path. It transforms the whole narrative we thought we knew.
So this deep dive, it's really shown how Pat Barker took this foundational epic, shifted the camera angle just slightly onto Briseis, and found this incredibly powerful, deeply human story inside it. Her journey isn't just survival. It's about quiet strength, sharp observation, and finally fiercely reclaiming her own voice from the silence.
And that leaves you, the listener, with this thought to chew on. What other stories are lying there, silent, underneath the big, famous narratives we always hear? What happens when we make the effort to listen for those voices? What new songs might they inspire us to sing? This book really invites us to look hard at the cost of those heroic tales and to recognize the incredible resilience of the people history usually pushes to the sidelines.